So quick update. I know I haven't posted in a while. How, at least today, with videos, everything you do in your videos, you can automate it and program it yourself and build these plugins, these functions that it takes some time to learn how to do this and build it. But then once you've got it, every video you make in the future, you've already got this stuff built. So it makes you can have really high production values without spending a ton of time on each video editing. You just got to put in that initial investment. So that's what I've been doing this last month or so. I haven't been putting out videos, but this week, I should be able to start putting out video after video after video with way higher production quality. So that's really exciting. Also exciting, I finally got approved for monetization, which is great. I was kind of worried because it took a while and I wasn't getting approved. That finally came through, so I'll be able to get some money, hopefully get some better equipment as well. So production quality will be going up. I did want to talk about Westworld. I know I'm late, like a day late at this point, but it bothered me, the finale. There was a direction I really didn't want it to go. And that's exactly the direction they ended up taking it. So I'm very disappointed. I'll talk mainly about, first of all, what I really think it did well, what I think it was strongest this season, and in particular the finale. And then I'm going to talk about what really bothered me, and then some odds and ends at the end. So what I think it did well, throughout the season, it had this through line about how humans create their own hell and create their own immortality. And it was a pretty simple process. Humans, first of all, you become creators and you create another race that you mistreat for whatever reason, and you set up the standard that, well, we're able to do certain things to them because they're not really human. Then you're all high and pumped up on your own creative abilities, so you think, what does a god do? Gods don't die, gods live forever. So then you start trying to create a way for yourself to live forever. Now this inevitably results in you creating a version of yourself that someone could look at that and say, well, that's not really human. And then what happens is you karmically get treated with the same standards that you use to mistreat another species by saying, well, robots, they're not really human, so we can mistreat them. Then someone looks at you trying to be immortal, and now you're a digital copy in some simulation. They say, well, digital copy in a simulation, that's not really human, so now they're free to mistreat you. And that's the way that, really simple process, create another species, mistreat them by saying, well, they're not really human, try to live forever. Now you are looked at by someone else who say, well, is that really human? I don't think so. And then you get treated badly by those same standards. So I thought that was pretty strong. And then also in the finale, I really liked they added this wrinkle where you saw time and time again, you go back to that one moment, your biggest mistake, your biggest regret, that one moment that you really want to change. You keep going back to that moment, but no matter how many times you do it, just because humans don't really have that much free will, we can't change like our fundamental core essence. No matter how many times you go back to that moment trying to have it play out differently, it's always going to play out the same way. So you add that to all the previous stuff I was talking about, where not only do you want to live forever, but maybe you want to live forever to kind of keep replaying that moment and trying to make it right, right that one wrong. But because of how humans are and how we are programmed in a certain way, you're never going to be able to right that wrong. So not only are you going to be living forever kind of mistreated by these standards you set up, you're also going to live forever constantly reliving this worst moment of your life and having it play out the exact same way. So I thought that was really strong. Now where I think it just completely went off the rails, not only did they go beyond, well, robots are like humans and we should treat them with the same basic fundamental rights we treat all sentient life, it went beyond to this. It's one of the most common tropes in sci-fi. I don't know why it's so popular. It's this robots are the real humans. Robots, again, humans don't really probably have free will. That's probably true. Humans are, to an extent, predictable. I think humans are very unpredictable, but yeah, humans are predictable in a way. But how people go from that to thinking that robots that we would create would have more free will than us and be less programmed and more able to change their fundamental core drives and better than us on these arbitrary human standards, these things that humans happen to value for whatever reason. Why would we assume that the species of robots we create would just be better? There's no reason to assume that unless you have such a low opinion of humanity, which I think from watching the show, clearly the show does. By the end, we're left with very few sympathetic human characters. All the people from Delos, universally horrible. William Man in Black, he seemed to be going on this nice redemption arc. That really petered out. He ends up murdering his daughter accidentally. He ends up trying to shoot Delores, failing at that. So really, he seemed to be going on this kind of hero arc. That didn't pan out at all. The only sympathetic human characters we really have is Stubbs. And it's funny, you compare, this was the most heartfelt moment, I think, of there were a few heartfelt moments, but this was one of the major heartfelt moments because if you go back to season one, we had some really nice interactions with Stubbs and Delores, where he was kind of doing testing with her and saying she's one of the oldest hosts in the park. So immediately when you saw this interaction with them, I thought back to how the show all began. So it was a really nice, heartfelt moment. But what's the message? The message is the only way for humans to really be nice or heroic is kind of stepping aside, like Stubbs did for the superior life form, or Sizemore, he actively sacrifices himself. So it just seems to give this impression that humans are almost universally bad, except for the ones that are willing to kind of step aside and let the next more superior form take over, which I think is a pretty toxic message. Just such a pessimistic, masochistic view of humanity, going even beyond Blade Runner, and such a missed opportunity when William and Dolores, they finally meet up. These are two characters who maybe have we've seen the most interactions out of everyone on the show. They have such a shared history together. But when they met, it just seemed like two adversaries, very powerful adversaries. There was no sense of their history and their intimacy at all. And I just thought it was just very weird, missed opportunity for the show. And then a lot of inconsistencies. Maybe this is a minor point, but I just feel like I say, they did such a strong critique of this human desire for immortality and what that can lead to. But then when they had the Valley Beyond, I guess it's the Sublime is what they're calling it, this paradise where all these hosts got beamed to, it seemed to be kind of saying, well, immortality for humans, it's evil and toxic, but for hosts, it's just it is what it is. It's a paradise. And I guess technically they never said that this computer program simulation would be eternal, so I guess it could run for a normal lifespan and then end, but I think that's given the show maybe a little too much leeway, a little too much credit. But major inconsistencies: Teddy's body, how did it get washed with all those other bodies? That didn't make any sense because he died so far away from that big battlefield. And then Logan being, I guess, the form, the forged to, I'm not sure what exactly Logan was representing, but why whatever it was would choose Logan to be the form that it was represented by, that didn't make a lot of sense. But one of the best moments was when Logan was having that last interaction with his dad, and he's like something like, "I've been to the bottom. Don't you want to know what I've seen there?" or something. I thought that was a really nice moment, and it brought me back to one of my favorite moments of the season was when Delos was, that things were crashing around him, and he's about to die, and he kind of calls out Logan in those last moments, and it's that image of the guy who spent his whole life chasing success, power, immortality at the expense of all the people around him that he probably does love on some deep level. And then in those last moments, those last doomed moments, of course, he's going to call out to his son. And of course, because of how he's lived his entire life, his son is not there and is not going to help him. So, and I enjoyed, it was nice that they brought back Logan in that way and we got these interactions, but just conceptually, I didn't think it made a lot of sense. And then that guy from Ghost Nation, why his wife was already in the Sublime, that didn't make sense because it seemed like to get there you had to go through that door. She clearly didn't go through the door. No one else was there except for Teddy, who Dolores sent there. And again, it's just so philosophically muddled. Why would, for me, Dolores, for her losing Teddy, that should have really affected her in some way, and that should have been part of her growth. But for her to kind of fix it by sending Teddy to this paradise, that's not why would that be paradise for Teddy? Teddy was all about honor and all about love and all about her. So why would him waking up in this place without her, why that doesn't absolve her of what she's done, and that doesn't really fix things. So I didn't like that part. I didn't like Ford. I guess Ford built this paradise, and it's like, why? So why would Ford build this Sublime? And at this point, I have no idea what Ford's motivations ever were. Why would he build this place beyond he has a God complex? And I guess this is the final, what God doesn't have a heaven for his creation. So I guess that's why he built them. Maybe Ford just genuinely, he did love the host this whole time, and he did love his creations, and this was his final gift to them, but it just confusing motivations. I wish we got more explained on the backstory with Ford and Arnold, what led to their falling out. We still don't really know that, why Arnold what really happened on that day Arnold died. I just feel like that was such a gold mine of stuff they could have explored, fleshing out Arnold more. And I feel like Arnold was always more of a character who I felt gets silly. Me as a human, I feel like Arnold was a character I could identify with, want to know more about. To base now, who are we left with at the end? We're left with Bernard and Dolores, and I just feel like Westworld. I hate to make this critique, but it's just missing that human element. And then a lot of the answers we got, I feel were a bit unsatisfying. So Bernard, he wasn't Teddy, he wasn't stuck in a loop, and so these theories weren't true, which is fine, obviously. But a lot of the evidence that they built these theories out of, they didn't really address all the evidence and these inconsistencies, and the answer they gave very underwhelming. And just the whole idea. So we see James Delos, and his consciousness has been perfectly replicated, and his consciousness is living in this kind of heaven fantasy simulation. And they keep taking this consciousness and trying to put this consciousness in a host body so he can go back into the real world. But what is his motivation if they're able to have all these consciousnesses existing in the simulation? Why do they keep trying to force them back into bodies and putting so much effort into that? They've done this countless times. Why not just perfect the simulation? If someone's willing to go to such lengths and distort themselves to such lengths to achieve immortality, but they're not willing to just live in a simulation, like they need a physical body, it just seemed really muddled. So and not to mention the whole, I wish they went with the idea that they were creating clones of powerful people and then sending the clones back in these people's place, killing the actual people, putting clones in their place, and using this to dominate the world. I just thought that would be kind of a cooler way to take it than, oh no, they just wanted to create immortality to sell it to the highest bid, and this was really just all about money. And that brings the question: who is really controlling Delos? We that's a big question, because it's not Ford, it's not Williams. We've seen everything he's been doing. So who's really pulling the strings behind Delos? And it's not James Delos. We've seen what's up with him. So it seems like a big power player that we've never really got any hints, even, because Charlotte seems pretty obedient to someone in power above her. So I think that could be really interesting in season 3, kind of exploring like who's been in charge of Delos and really controlling things behind Delos for so long. And is it just a single person, a very charismatic individual, or is it a ton of different people that all have power? So pretty disappointing finale. I have massive expectations. I still think season 1, absolute masterpiece, one of my favorite sci-fi TV shows ever. I think it's fantastic, and this doesn't take away from that. I could still watch season 1 of Westworld and think it's brilliant. Season 2, it started well. I defended it from people who criticized it. I thought it was really good, and they were gonna pull things together at the end. And I think they tried. They didn't just kind of half-ass the ending. They really tried to make things big and apocalyptic and the spectacle. And there were times that when you were watching the door and the people crossing, and their dead bodies falling, and their minds celebrating in this paradise. It was strong, and it made you feel stuff. So it took a big swing. I just think that it whiffed it big and made some really bad creative choices, and it just became like X-Men with robots, and X-Men. Everyone loves Magneto, and then X-Men Last Stand comes out and basically says, yeah, Magneto, he's cool and all, and he's fun to watch, but he's like an alien sociopath that wants our extinction. He's a threat, he's a danger, and we have to treat him as such. And everyone revolted and said, no, he's good. Magneto's the good guy. And I feel like the show went a similar way, where they should have just admitted what Dolores was and made her the villain, making her this anti-hero, I guess is what they're making her. It's just disappointing.